Before we hop into today's edition of the Bulls Report, help us out. We are closing in on 3,500 subscribers here on the channel. We just need 152 of you guys to hit that subscribe button. So if you're new here and this is your first time coming across our show and our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Lock us in as your go-to Bulls YouTube channel on just the latest news and rumors. We will keep you guys covered. Coming up on today's edition of the Bulls Report, we're going to be discussing bringing in John Wall, giving you an update around Ayo Dosunmu, and then also discussing the possibility of the Bulls trading for Tyler Herro and being that third team that helps facilitate this Damian Lillard to the Miami Heat trade. My name is Patrick Siepman. We'll be breaking down all this and more. But let's start off with the signing John Wall as potentially being the backup point guard for the Chicago Bulls. We obviously know point guard was a huge need for the Bulls heading into this offseason, and you could say they sort of addressed it by signing Jevon Carter. But without bringing in anybody in the NBA draft at that point guard spot, and with Ayo Dosunmu still being a restricted free agent, and I really do believe the Bulls could use some more help at that point guard spot. As right now where the Bulls roster sort of sits, like I said, Jevon Carter, I would slate him as the starting point guard. Obviously, some other Bulls fans would maybe consider Kobe White as being the starting one in this upcoming year, but it's still at that guard spot. Like we have guys like Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. Those guys are more wing guards and not true points. And then obviously Ayo Dosunmu being a restricted free agent, he is still on the market. But the news around John Wall and the reason that kind of sparked this conversation was that the veteran point guard John Wall is to hold a private workout on Sunday with multiple teams, and some of the teams being included were the Boston Celtics and the Portland Trailblazers will be in attendance, and the five-time All-Stars ramping up efforts in hopes of a return to the NBA. So I kind of connected the dots here. The Bulls need a backup point guard or just a point guard in general, and John Wall is trying to get back into the NBA. But last year with the Los Angeles Clippers, Wall, he was still able to put up solid numbers, like 11.5 points per game and 5 assists per night is a solid production standpoint from just putting up numbers at the box score point of view. But it's efficiency. I mean, 40% from the field and then 30% from deep from the point guard position in the NBA is nowhere near where you want it to be. And that kind of brings up the whole point with a guy like John Wall. What sort of value would he bring to a Bulls team? Like, we discussed the possibility of bringing in a D Rose as a veteran point guard we could bring in. Obviously the mentorship pro that Derrick Rose would bring in, just the overall experience and kind of that, veteran savvy. Like, I think John Wall has that. But besides that, like, what else does he bring to this, team? Like, on the court specifically, we can focus in on that here for a second. Like, in my, kind of backup veteran point guard, I would want a guy that's going to be incredibly efficient, get guys easy looks, and just kind of be more of a net positive than obviously a net negative. And I think where John Wall is in his NBA career, I think he's not the same guy defensively as he once was. Obviously, he lost a step there. He can't beat guys off the dribble anymore. He's just, a little slower than he was in his prime, obviously. And he's never been the greatest shooter. So overall, I just think John Wall, I'll probably pass on him just because of the value he would bring. But I'll ask you guys this question. I'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if YouTube throws an ad break your way, sit back, let it play, and answer today's question of would you sign John Wall? Give me an S for sign or give me a P for pass down in the comment section. My take with John Wall is that I would pass on him. Obviously, his athletic ability has fallen off to a certain extent just due to injuries and, the time he's missed and just the natural age. But he really hasn't developed his skill set. Like, if this was a Chris Paul type of point guard where you really saw his craft develop over the past couple of seasons, and we've seen John Wall kind of take that next step into kind of being the savvy veteran point guard, but he still tries to rely on his athletic ability. You go watch a tape from him with the Clippers last season. It was still a lot of him, trying to beat dudes off the dribble, which, obviously you're going to need to do, but he hasn't really added that second layer to his game, or maybe he needed to get a more, more versatile array of weapons or something he could use, more moves in his bag. And he's just always kind of been that one-trick pony at the point guard position. So I would pass on John Wall. I do think the Bulls need to add in a veteran point guard, but just another point guard on this team. John Wall, though, I wouldn't really want to take a risk on him, and I would pass. But now we're going to be diving into the latest around Ayo Dosunmu because we still don't have any news around Ayo at this point. Honestly, I thought a contract would be worked on by now, the time we're recording this video. But he does have interest from the Brooklyn Nets, and this was Michael Pina from The Athletic who reported it. He said if the Nets want to spend elsewhere, they could beef up their ball handlers by throwing something like a 4-year, $40 million offer at Ayo Dosunmu. It'd push Chicago into the tax after it just spent half of its own mid-level exception on Javon Carter, another guard. Maybe the Bulls will match, but the smart money is on the scenario where their owner doesn't spend a dime more than he has to. And that's been kind of the report with the Bulls. Obviously they have the green light to go in the luxury tap from ownership, but by no means would they want to do that. But Ayo, from a productivity standpoint, the last 2 seasons, again, that rookie year, he was sensational. The efficiency was there. He was that kind of spark plug off the bench. He brought it defensively. His overall archetype of guard is one of my favorite archetypes in the league, those big physical guards who are also tremendous slashers. But this next season, in his sophomore rookie campaign, the efficiency dropped. Like the three-point shooting dropped nearly 6% or 6.5%. from year 1 to year 2, going from 37.6 to 31.2. And obviously the field goal percentage dropped 2.7 percentage points as well. But I would still want Ayo Dosunmu back. I've been a big fan of his game, dating back to his high school days at Morgan Park. And then obviously when he was at the University of Illinois, he was sensational there as well. He led that team to one of the best college teams in the country. And then when he came to Chicago his rookie year, he was a great piece for the Bulls off the bench. And I will say this, I wouldn't be opposed to the Bulls offering him the disabled player exception if that is approved, which is $10.2 million. If you guys don't know, the Bulls did ask the league to offer them that disabled player exception for Lonzo Ball next season. They just take half of Lonzo Ball's salary, and the Bulls can use that to sign, other players and use that as an exception. So maybe you say, Ayo, we'll give you a 1-year, $10.2 million kind of prove-it deal this upcoming year, where Ayo would be getting that $10 million that other teams like the Brooklyn Nets could offer him. But it's not. But it's more of a 1-year deal because maybe the Bulls say, we'll offer him this deal and to see if he can prove it to us, and then we'll go and sign him on an extension later. So just keep that in mind. I wonder if the Bulls, if they are going to bring in Ayo, maybe they'll offer him the DPE. But I'll ask you guys this question: how much per year would you pay Ayo Dosunmu? I would say anywhere around 7 to 9. That would be the range I would want to pay him. But if it is that DPE, I wouldn't hate giving him 10.2 either. But I'll ask you, how much per year would you give Ayo Dosunmu? But now let's talk about it. A big little trade rumor here around the Chicago Bulls is around Tyler Herro. And this has just been Bulls Twitter kind of sparking up the past couple of days, as a lot of people want the Bulls to kind of be that third team that facilitates a Heat Portland Trailblazers trade, and then we're the team that brings on Tyler Herro. So to kind of set the scene a little bit on why the Bulls kind of make sense. The Heat and Trailblazers, like I mentioned, they need a third team to facilitate this trade. The Blazers there's been reports that came out there and said they don't want Tyler Herro. They would rather have a star. So maybe another team could get involved and give the Trailblazers a star, and then the Bulls would obviously, take on Herro. But the Bulls need shooting. I mean, shooting was the biggest kind of need other than point guard for the Bulls heading into this offseason, and they really haven't had anybody to address it. Obviously, they got in guys like Torrey Craig and Javon Carter, who were pretty solid this past year from a shooting standpoint, both over 40%, but they're not really volume shooters. And Tyler Herro, he is a volume shooter. He is a guy who's going to put up a lot of threes and hit them at a high rate. And also, he might have a lower trade value than you might think. The Brooklyn Nets, there was a report that came out that they said they would want to take on a pick if they were taking on Tyler Herro's contract, which I don't really get. Maybe the Bulls could land him for a late first-round pick, or maybe, throw the Heat, maybe that Portland lottery-protected pick. So maybe his trade value isn't as high as most people would think. I would still give up a first for Tyler Herro, but maybe on the trade market, he doesn't go for nearly as much that. But, I mean, he is an absolute bucket getter. I mean, you can't deny what he does from the offensive side of the floor. Like 20 points a game in the NBA, not many people can get that done, and Tyler Herro is one of those guys. Still 4 assists per game, decent playmaker, 5 rebounds per game, just due to his natural size that he has at that guard spot. He's able to, get down there and bang a little more. But efficiency standpoint, I mean, 44% from the field and damn near 38% from deep is pretty incredible. And I will say this, during this kind of Damian Lillard trade saga we've seen, I think Tyler Herro somehow became underrated in the NBA. Like, I think people are kind of just assuming that he's a negative to bring on to your team due to his contract and everything. And yes, he has a hefty contract, but that's what it takes to get a 20-point-a-game guy now in the NBA. I mean, the dude's 23 years old. Like, he is one of the better bucket getters, especially, nowadays you want a guy that can catch and shoot. You want a guy that can hit a pull-up jumper. You want a guy that can come off a pick and roll, and if the other team is in drop coverage, he can just slide in there to that mid-range game and rise up. Tyler Herro checks all those boxes. Like, I think people are undervaluing how important and how hard it is to get a true 20-point-a-game guy in the modern-day NBA, and frankly, he is just an absolute offensive talent from that side of the floor. Obviously, defensively, has his limitations, but he's got decent size. I mean, yes, other teams would pick on him during the NBA playoffs and just honestly pick and roll or just whatever game it may be, but I think offensively, he is so talented that I wouldn't be opposed to the Bulls bringing him on. But I'll throw the question your guys' way. Should the Bulls trade for Tyler Herro? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down in the comment section. Really curious to see what you guys have to say. As always, guys, hit that subscribe button. Stay in the loop. Help us out here at Chat Sports grow our Bulls community. We're closing in on 3,500 subscribers. So if you guys haven't already, hit that sub button. And we'll see you guys next time. Go Bulls.